Hey teachers, in this episode we're going to talk about the concept of forgiveness or letting it go when a student has had a conflict with you and perhaps upset you or offended you in their behaviour, why it is so important for you as a teacher to be able to move past it. Come on, let's get into it. Okay, so we're going to talk about the concept of let it go, and no, I'm not talking about that famous Disney movie, although that is probably an ideal jumping off point. You know, this whole concept of dealing with people, relationships have conflict, whether they're relationships with students, with other people. You're always going to have conflict, and you're always going to have moments where other people hurt you. They might hurt you emotionally, they might hurt you personally. They might do something that really upsets you. And you have to come to a point as a teacher of asking the question, can I move forward in my relationship with this person? You know, because we all know in behavior management that relationship is the key to effective behavior management. And so if you're in a place where you have a broken or fractured relationship with one of your students, the priority for you is to figure out a way to fix that relationship. If you can't fix the relationship, you're going to continue having problems. And something that I've seen with a lot of teachers is they take the behavior of their students very personally. And this is, I believe, because the nature of most teachers is to care for people. They're very caring, but the Achilles heel of a caring person is they also are very sensitive, and they have sensitive hearts. And so as a consequence of dealing with negative behavior, sometimes you can take it personally, sometimes it can be very upsetting or emotionally taxing for you. And so you've got to find ways that you can move past those events and be able to maintain or to repair relationships. And otherwise you're not going to be able to manage behavior long term. I'll give you a story just to illustrate this point. I was working with a high school teacher who, for all intents and purposes, was excellent at managing behavior. I never had to speak to him about his practice, and in fact he managed his classes really, really well. But one day he came to me and asked for some advice because he had a particular student in his class who had stolen his mobile phone. She had been caught and suspended for a period of time. But the event really upset him personally because she had violated his personal space. She went through his bag, she stole his property. He took it quite personally, and I think understandably so. And so when she came back from suspension, she was still aggressive towards him, she was still hostile towards him, and he didn't know how to manage her or how to integrate her back into the class. And so I asked him, I said, have you forgiven her for what you did? Have you moved past the hurt of her violating your space and taking your phone? And he thought about it and he said, no, I don't think I have. I'm still really upset. I'm still really offended. And even though she's been suspended, she's never apologized to me. And I'm upset about that. And so what I suggested to him was that until he was able to make the first move, until he was able to move towards restoring the relationship, she would continue being hostile. Why? Because children will take their cues from adults. Children will know if an adult is hostile towards them. They will put up barriers and they will put up walls. And it's really incumbent upon us as adults to make the first move, even if we don't think it was our fault, or even if we don't think that it's our responsibility to mend the relationship. As the person who is caring for them, we have to take that initiative and responsibility. And so what I suggested he do is just something very simple of whenever she comes to class, just say, hey, welcome to class today, I'm glad you're here. Something really simple. And so that's what he did. He just stood at the door every day when they would come in, and he would say, call her by name and say, hey, welcome to class, so glad you're here. Well, he came back to me 2 weeks later and a remarkable change had taken place. He said she was compliant, she was helpful, she was less hostile towards him, she was participating in the class. What had happened was he took the first step to initiate the healing process of their relationship. He let her know that he wasn't going to hold a grudge. He let her know that he wanted her back in the class, because until the child feels that they are wanted in the class and that they are safe in the class, they're not going to look for a relationship with you. So let me unpack this in 3 steps that you can use to mend a relationship or to let it go or to move past a conflict with a student that may be damaging your ability to manage them in the classroom well. And the first thing is this: you may need to fake it till you make it. Okay? Forgiveness or letting something go is not necessarily determined by how you feel. A lot of people say, when I feel ready, then I'll forgive, or I'm still hurt, so I can't forgive. Your feelings don't necessarily have to determine your response to that person. The example I told you at the beginning, I asked him to say, "Welcome to class, I'm glad you're here." Well, initially he didn't want to do that. He said, "No, but I'm not really happy she's in the class." I said, "I know you're not happy she's in the class, but you can tell her you're happy she's in the class. If you can at least show the, if you like, the persona that you are glad that they are in your class, that you want relationship with them, what will happen is your feelings will actually follow." Don't make the mistake of going the other way. Don't let your feelings lead your decision making. Make the decision to do what's right, and your feelings will actually follow that decision. So the first step of forgiveness is you may need to fake it till you make it. Start making moves towards mending the relationship, even if inside you're still wrestling with it. The second thing is this: you need to remember who the adult is in the relationship. Very often children can say and do things to us that is very hurtful. It can make us feel indignant. It can make us feel angry. It can make us feel ashamed or humiliated. And if you are waiting for the child to make the first move, you've got to ask yourself who the adult is, because children learn by mimicking. They learn by role modeling, and you know this as a teacher. And they are mimicking and role modeling your ability to make relationship and build and repair relationships. And so part of it is you have to show them that it is possible to mend a relationship even if you weren't the person that damaged the relationship. You've got to make the first move because you're the adult. You're the teacher. You signed up to model behaviour for children so that they would know how to live their lives. And so part of that is learning how to show them what forgiveness looks like, what respect looks like, even before they're ready to give it to you, or perhaps even if they don't deserve it. Okay, remember, you're the adult. You're modelling the behaviour. You get to make the first move. And the third thing is this: if this is hard for you to do, think about the long-term goals, okay? As a teacher, what are your long-term goals in your relationship with your students? My hope is that you all think about your students in terms of who you're helping them to become. We're not just teaching a number. We're not just teaching a lesson. We're not just administering a curriculum or completing an assessment. We're teaching little human beings to become grown-ups who can function well in society. And so part of your role is to prepare them for adulthood. And so you've got to keep that in mind and say, okay, if I can't model to them repair of relationship, forgiveness, letting it go, how does that prepare them for adulthood? Does that make them better adults? Does that help them to navigate the problems and challenges of their life? Or am I just contributing to the load of other dysfunctional or negative examples that they may have had up to that point? You get to determine the outcomes based on how you perceive your students. And if you care about your students, like I know many of you do, and you want to see them achieve their very best, then you've got to learn to let it go. You've got to learn to fake it till you make it. Show them that you want them in the class and you want to mend relationship. You've got to take the effort as the adult to make the first move. And you've got to think about the long-term effects of your relationship and the way that you respond to them. If you can do that, what you will find is that, like my friend who I gave the example of at the beginning, that they will start to change the way they behave with you. They will change the way they respond to you, and you will have far more productive, positive and respectful relationships with your students. I hope that was really helpful. If you found it helpful and you know someone else that would enjoy this video, make sure you share it with them, and don't forget to subscribe and follow on whatever channel you're on. If you're listening on our podcast, please give us a review. That just helps us with our algorithms in Apple Podcasts and helps us get this message out to more people. Until next time, I'm Tarun Stevenson.